Welcome back to the Fantasy Network, everyone. I am the Book 2 Beefcake, Jimmy Nuts. And today we are ending the Liveship Traders Trilogy with Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. That's right, I'm wrapping up the second trilogy in the realm of the Elderlings, and we're continuing our quest. I'm going to start Tawny Man after this, but we have some things to talk about with this final book in this trilogy. Live Ships has been an amazing experience, and there was a lot of wait for Ship of Destiny to wrap it up soundly. I thought that in Farseer, Book 2 really overshadowed Book 3. Book 3 was fine. I just thought that Book 2 had a more like heart-pounding ending, and I'm curious to see if Hobb can wrap it up at a top level of a crescendo and a climax here with this trilogy. And yeah, she did. I'm going to keep this spoiler-free, and I will be doing a spoiler discussion very soon on this. On my channel will be a live stream, so you can come and chat, and we can interact, and we can all talk about this series in Liveship, just because there's a lot to go over. I'll have those details out at a future date, and I'll make sure everyone knows when that is happening. Just like Book 1 and the Book 2, we're starting right where we left off, which is great. I don't want time jumps in these. I've been spending all these, intimate moment with these characters. I have to see what's happened, because Book 2 was kind of a cliffhanger. And to say one thing for Ship of Destiny, I really feel as if it steps up the kind of the pace here, and a lot of stuff happened throughout this whole book, and I felt like it was really good. It kind of felt like a roller coaster at some points. Where I was like, slow down, like the emotional beats are killing me. And that's because even in the third installment, Robin Hobb takes time to develop her characters even another step. Robin Hobb is the best character writer in fantasy, in my opinion. And the cool thing is not just the relationships that have been built back in Book 1 or even Book 2. Kefria and Johnny, if that's how you say her name, their relationship and the way that they've built, and we've been able to see, two mothers come together in some awful circumstances that really got to rely on each other, and one takes the charge when the other one can't. Seeing that develop and blossom has done a lot for Kefria as a character, and even panned out a little bit for Johnny as well. But Kefria here is just on a different level than we knew her in Book 1 and 2, and where some people might have been very frustrated with her. I found her and Malta to be extraordinarily frustrating, more so Malta, which I'll talk about in a bit. But Kefria really got ironed out, and I like where she's ending up here in Ship of Destiny. And another character that's getting ironed out finally is Selden. I forgot Selden existed. In Book 1, I popped, I'm like, wait, Selden? Who is Selden? And then like Book 2, you see a little bit more, but here in Book 3, Selden actually takes a stance. And sometimes when a character is kind of like thrown into a Book 3, it can feel like, for lack of a better term, cheap, right? Or it can feel rushed. I didn't feel like that way with Selden. It was just like, slight introductions and slight mentions of him in the past. Kind of told you everything you need to know at that point, and now he's at an age where he can start making an impact and stepping up for his family. And Selden ended up being like one of my bright points of Ship of Destiny, which was cool, just because, like I said, I forgot he existed for a time. Kefria, Selden, and also Cirilla have really jumped to the forefront of the plot, and to see lesser developed characters get some page time and really round out this cast was something that I think is a big challenge, and Robin Hobb did extraordinarily well here. And I really, really like the chapters that we got with Cirilla, and also just seeing again, like, she's not, the way she's going about things maybe not be the most ethical thing, but you still support her cause, and it just can also make you really conflicted. And I don't know. I have a lot of empathy for that character and what she is trying to overcome and does, and is still able to move on, even though some of the things might be considered shady or whatnot. I was rooting for Cirilla hard. And Ship of Destiny is very much about destiny. It's very much about expectations. And I think that a lot of our characters started out this trilogy with expectations, and they have all been subverted and have had events happen to them. There's a price to pay for trying to get what you want and trying to achieve things. And it comes not only from our antagonists, but also for our protagonists, for better or for worse. Some of them come out looking better. Some of them come out looking a lot worse, and I think most do. And they're just changed forever. And if there's one thing I can say about Ship of Destiny, that's what it feels like. It feels like it's a book about expectations. It feels like it's a commentary on what is destiny. So Ship of Destiny seems to make a lot of sense as a title for me. And when you have a Book 3 and you have this vast cast of characters, you want to see the convergence of all of those POVs coming together. How do all the lines connect? And Ship of Destiny does an immaculate job of that. I love when authors are able to do this. Tad Williams does it extraordinarily well. Brandon Sanderson does this extraordinarily well. And now I can add Robin Hobb to the list. I feel like the convergence of the characters and reunions and new meetings for the first time, and really the consequences of decisions made all the way back in book one, all come to a conclusion here that is very satisfactory, and it played out on page different than I thought it would. I really did. And this trilogy remained unpredictable for me all the way to the very end. And as I've went through and I've seen this convergence and we've gotten so much more information about the Elderlings and some connections to Farseer, it was really nice to see some of the theories that I have get confirmed, which again, I'll go over in my spoiler discussion that I'm going to hear host on the channel as a live stream. It'll be available on demand after the fact, and I'll announce that later. But I had some theories, and some are wrong, but most got confirmed. And to see that happen is such a rewarding experience, even when you're wrong and you find out more information that connects Farseer to Liveship, which is, the overarching theme and story of Realm of the Elderlings. It's so cool. If I had one complaint, like an actual critique, I guess, or a con of this book, there was some major events that started off page that we kind of jumped in the middle of, and then some stuff was just left off page and we were told about from a different character's point of view. I don't necessarily, maybe it's just the size of the book because every one of these was like 900 pages, but I really felt as if maybe we could have seen that. I wouldn't have minded these books being longer, and I'm a masochist, I guess, because I love these long books, but just some things happening off screen, some relationship stuff, but also like major events and conflicts, in Bingtown that I thought should have been on page. This happened a little bit in Farseer, but I think it was a little bit more noticeable here. Where I bet multiple people picked on. If you did, let me know down in the comments, because there's just a couple of things that happen off screen that I'm like, wait, I wanted to see that. So that's just like my one small critique or con of the book. And some of the character arcs that get wrapped up. I mean, there's more progression in this book, but there's also some regression, I think. Some characters really, they get it. They get walloped in this book. And there's an event that happens towards the end of the book with like 200-300 pages left that I won't spoil. But it is the most outraged I've been. And when I say all this stuff, I'm not meaning this in a negative sense of it was bad writing or I think it was not worth it or whatever. I'm just saying an emotional response to the text. So I don't mean this as a negative. This is, if anything, it's a positive when a book makes me feel something and act out. But I was just so enraged by this moment. I haven't felt this sort of emotion from a scene since George R. R. Martin did my boy Ned wrong in Game of Thrones. It's that level. It's totally different, but it has that absolute weight to it and leverage, and it's just it knocks the wind out of you. I had to put the book down, and I had to just kind of take a day, take a night to get over it. I was just so mad. I was so mad, and this ties into me saying this is weird. So if you look back at my first review for Ship of Magic. I said that Wintrow was my favorite character. I said I connected and had a lot of struggle. Here in book 3, and I don't think he's purposely being an antagonist or anything like that. I hate Wintrow here in Ship of Destiny. His reaction to this event and his inaction throughout the entire series. And again, this is not because I think it's bad writing or bad character development. It's good. I'm just saying, from a reaction standpoint, I do not like Wintrow. I think that he's just, I don't want to use the word coward because that's not fair. He's been through a lot of stuff and his progression was awesome to see. But whenever this event happened and then his reaction to it and him kind of just not doing anything and staying where he was and on what side, I just totally wrote him off. I do think because of that feeling, whenever his moment comes in this book, and I won't say much more, when his moment comes, and Hobb did an amazing job of signposting for Wintrow throughout the trilogy of the trauma that he had been through in the first book and his relationship with his father and how Kenneth has played into that and all this stuff. She did such an excellent job of signposting that. But because of his big decision, in my opinion, of what happens to another character, I was just done with Wintrow. I don't know why I reacted in this way so boldly and so crude, but I just was like, forget this kid. I don't care what happens to him. And when his moment came, that I think is his payoff, I just didn't really believe in it. I believed in a lot of other people's characters. I think Etta is a very complex character and in a lot of ways similar to Wintrow, but her moments I think paid off, and where she ended up kind of felt fine to me. Whereas Wintrow just didn't pay off the way I wanted it to. And that's personal preference. Again, I'm not saying that's a negative for Hobb or anything like that, but just so we are clear, I hate Wintrow. But yeah, that scene that happens to a character is just one of the most emotional scenes I've ever had. I didn't know how to react, and it kind of put a cloud over the entire climax. Like, there's a lot of good stuff happening in the last 200 pages of this book, but I was just so done with Wintrow and other character that did this action to one of my beloved characters. And it just kind of like, it was almost like a haze. Like, all these big things are happening, but all you can think about is just a moment that happened 100 pages ago. Which, again, isn't necessarily a bad thing, because if you look at through the character's POV that was abused, I'm sure that is how she felt. And you'll see when you go through it. And I know I'm being vague, but that's intentional to not give anything away, because I would like to see what other people's emotional responses was to that. If you know what I'm talking about and you've read the series, go down in the comments and let me know. It's something I'm absolutely going to talk about in the spoiler discussion, and it'll be interesting to say the least. But I just love how everything came together. I love how nothing is free with Hobb. Every decision to be a hero or a villain has consequences, and it all came together. And the mystery of like the serpents gets resolved in a pretty dope way, like really cool. And like Farseer, the magic subtly comes in towards the end. Like, again, the plot is like an onion, but also the magic and all the fantastical things. Like, sometimes you almost forget it's fantasy until a ship talks or something, right? But I like the way that the magic escalated in the world, and the tie-ins with Farseer to say, hey, this is Realm of the Elderlings, was just so excellent. I can't imagine wrapping up this trilogy much better. It was better than anything I had hoped for, even with big emotional moments that broke my heart and made me hate some characters so much. I remain conflicted on Kenneth all the way to the end of the story, though not really. I should say I hate Kenneth with a burning passion of 1,000 suns, but again, because he's surrounded by good people, you see yourself still kind of wanting him to come on top in some conflicts, because you want people around him to have a good time, to have good things happen to them. And unfortunately, because they're tied to him, their destinies are aligned, and it's just so confusing. And Hobb, why do you do this to me? Robin Hobb knows how to make you feel. She hits on every emotional beat, every single plot point, and wraps it up perfectly, in my opinion. When I turned the last page, I felt so satisfied. It's hard to imagine that she's going to get better, but apparently she is. And I'm excited to get back to Fitz at the Tawny Man trilogy. I've had a lot of people ask me, are you going to take a break from Realm of the Elderlings, or are you going to keep plowing through? The answer is, I'm going to keep plowing through. I'm reading all Realm of the Elderlings right in a row. I am reading some books in between, but what I mean by that is, like, this is an active thing, right? So I'll be reading Robin Hobb in May and June and probably July, and getting this series finished up, because I can't get enough of Robin Hobb. The Ship of Destiny is a commentary on destiny and expectations. Malta, wants to be married to a handsome man and be courted and all this stuff in book one. And Wintrow wants to be a priest. He has the expectations of that. Kenneth expects to be the king, of the Pirate Isles. And there's all these expectations and destiny, and people getting lost in that message. And it ends up impacting everyone around them. And it all kind of converges into this really neat ending point, where Hobb makes you think after you turn the last page. It's not just done. I mean, it is done. But you can think and conversate on this trilogy specifically. Obviously, all of Realm of the Elderlings so far, but specifically Live Ships is something that I think you could get a lot out of. Rereads would be encouraged. As a trilogy by itself, is it better than Farseer? I think the plot is better than Farseer. I think it ends better than Farseer. So I feel like it's a little bit more consistent. But I still have an attachment to the cast, emotional attachment to the cast of characters in Farseer more than Live Ships, even though the characters are still God tier. Like, they're amazing. So I don't know if that's necessarily a fair question, but I do think that overall Live Ship is better because it ended better. Which I can excuse like a good or even a poor ending for a trilogy, but the fact of the matter is I think Live Ships is pretty damn near flawless in more ways than one, and the character development is out of this world, just out of this world.
Hey everyone, I never ever do B-roll, but I kind of, I had to talk a lot about a lot of stuff with Ship of Destiny, and I completely blanked and didn't write down my notes for some reason. And I had to do this B-roll, which I've never done, but I have to do it because it's such a big deal, and that is the fact that Malta, oh my god. So Malta was someone I pretty much hated and was so annoyed with, and almost just wanted her to get killed off or wrote off or something in the first two books. by book 3 at the end, Malta had more than come into her own and was such an important, integral piece of the plot, especially for her family. And she went from a character that I just absolutely detested to a character that I fell in love with, that I was rooting for. And honestly, out of every single ending for every single character, hers may have been the best and the most interesting, and I really hope we see her again in Realm of the Elderlings. But I needed to jump in here because the character development from book 1 to book 3 of just Malta is not only spectacular, but it's also just so natural and believable, and it blew me away, and it might have been Hobb's best achievement with all of the characters in Live Ships.
If you're watching this, you've already read it, let me know what you thought. Which one was better, Farseer or Liveship? I think I'm erring on the side of Liveship with the caveat that I'm more emotionally tied to Farseer's cast. But I'm interested to see what other people think. And if you haven't read this and you watch this video just because you like spoiler-free reviews and maybe you're it's in your prospects to read, you need to go read this and you need to not skip it. I know Fitz is amazing, and if you haven't read Farseer, go read that so you can get the Live Ships and join me, because the Realm of the Elderlings is continuing to become one of the most rich reading experiences that I've ever had, and some of the people that I've been able to talk to about this have become close friends, and the community Realm of the Elderlings is not massive, but it's quality. It's really, really quality. So yeah, next up on the Tawny Man, I guess. And I don't know how much more Robin Hobb can take out of my heart, but she's got a lot of it already, and she just keeps breaking it in her hands. So yeah, Live Ship as a whole, 5 out of 5. Absolutely one of the best trilogies I've ever read. I really have to sit and think about it more. But Ship of Destiny ties up everything. I think it delivers on the themes that she wanted to talk about as an author, and also just feels very, very satisfying to have a conclusion to. And I can't wait to get back to the Rain Wilds, because even with Farseer and everything, I think that is still like the most intriguing piece of all of this story. And we got a lot of answers about the Elderlings here, but there's still more to go. Hey, thank you so much for taking your time to listen to me rant about the Ship of Destiny, and I hope that you'll continue this journey with me through Realm of the Elderlings and all the other books that I read. So make sure to hit like and subscribe, turn on the bell for notifications so you can see the latest videos that I post here. And until I see you next time, make sure to be good, be healthy, be safe, and remember to always keep turning the page.